Okay. All right, we are recording, and I see Genesis in the room. So I will go ahead and convene us by first thanking you all for being here. This is Trait Space, your safe place. This support group is powered by the As One Foundation, but it is the brainchild of Genesis Jones, who is this support group is for post-transplant warriors that are transitioning to being trait warriors. It started last summer. Just about a year ago, we had a conversation about whether or not the As One Foundation, because of our origin story in sickle cell trait and our intentionality about educating about sickle cell trait, whether or not we had a support group. And without going too much into Genesis' story, because I certainly would like to invite Genesis to speak on her own, that conversation birthed this support group. And we definitely designed it to be a safe place. We talk about whatever you want to talk about. We just would like the ability to share it via our YouTube. You can go back and listen to all of the previous support group that we've had since January of this year, every third Tuesday. So I'll just say that the As One Foundation has a mission to empower families globally by delivering life-saving sickle cell education. And tonight is not a departure from that at all. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest that I can hardly wait for you to hear from. But first, Genesis, if you want to come on or unmute and say a few words, you are certainly welcome to as our co-founder and brainchild.
Yes. Thank you for that intro. I was trying to get my camera to work. Here we go. So yeah, like Dr. Austin was saying, we had a conversation about a year ago about starting Trait Space, and it has been just a joyous thing to be able to have this space for people that are post-transplant and people that are now trait warriors, looking to have a experience outside of kind of where they are now. And I am excited for tonight, hearing a conversation for a um, fellow trait warrior. Uh, we have Lance, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about his journey and how he used his just the healthy aspect of being able to heal himself overall and just be a healthy advocate within himself and overall. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. So yeah, with further ado, I'm gonna give the mic to Lance.
And with that, Lance, it's all yours. Got it. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yes, yes. So thank you for having me. This is my first time on cam with Mrs. Austin here, the Dr. Austin. Um, I'm Lance Kearse. Just to introduce myself, I'm Lance Kearse. I play professional sports. I have sickle cell trait, and I was one of the ones who was in the hospital, hospitalized, and had to go through the whole situation of being accused for it being a mental issue and whatnot. But I'm a survivor, and I'm here to tell my story and explain a little bit of what I did to overcome some of the things that I went through.
Can you start from the beginning and just talk about how you were diagnosed? How did you learn that you had sickle cell trait?
Yeah, so I learned that I had sickle cell trait my sophomore year of college after the second time of nearly losing my kidneys. due to high CK levels, rhabdo, right, muscle breakdown. And I transferred from the school, and the second school told me that they did a physical and they told me that I had sickle cell trait. But before that, I was diagnosed with Epstein-Barr, a misdiagnosis of Epstein-Barr, a misdiagnosis of a muscle myopathy. And then after the third one, they were like, you know what, we don't think it's any of those things. We think it's a figment of your imagination. So they hired a psychologist um, to kind of manipulate my brain into thinking that it wasn't physical. And then a psychiatrist diagnosed me with Effexor and citalopram and Celebrex for the pain, right? And then the two previous for anxiety, and that's how I figured it out. It was a rough path, right? It was, they took the long way around, but we eventually figured it out, and I was able to, I wouldn't say self-medicate, I would say, nature medicate.
What
So to
was
say.
happening? What was happening to you? I know you and I know the story, but what was going on with you?
A bunch of things. Severe dehydration. I'm a college athlete at the time. This is 2007. This is before everyone knows about health. The whole internet knows about health, right? Um, I was cramping up. I was lethargic all the time. I was having pains, like pains in my stomach and my guts, and I couldn't move. Some days I would just be slow. I would slur my words a lot. Memory was bad. I was being accused of being lazy and soft and weak. That's collegiate sports, right? It's all men, and men are trying to make money for their family, so they're trying to force you to play as hard as you can possibly play. And for me, we were playing in a gym that was 15 degrees hotter inside than it was outside, and it had no central air and heat, no circulation, and it was the perfect recipe for having a crisis.
Mm. And so you get diagnosed and you are told what?
Um, Told that I have sickle cell, and they told me that I had to change my diet. I said, to what? They were like, well, we don't know. You just got to change it. At 19, you can't tell me to change my diet. Where do I go from, eating, grilled cheese? I mean, from fried chicken sandwiches to grilled chicken sandwiches? Like, what does that look like? All right. I had already, tapered my diet back. I wasn't eating processed foods and candies and sweets and stuff like that because I found out that I would be much tired and I didn't have energy. So I did away with that. I was slowly changing my diet. I was more on I used to eat from a Jamaican restaurant that had a bunch of cabbage and white rice and beans and, clean chicken and whatnot. But even that didn't do the trick for me.
Okay, so then tell us, bring us in. I know you have this great tool that
Yeah.
we have worked on, so I don't want to spoil the tool,
Oh, we can
but
spoil it.
we want to share with the audience and the audience members now on the screen with us, as well as those that will watch this the replay on YouTube. So please say you're at liberty to say whatever you wish to share. We want to hear it.
Okay. Yeah. So you want me to share the documentary?
If you want to share the documentary first and then we get into it, or if you want to talk a little bit and tell how we got to the documentary.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll share the documentary because the documentary would be a perfect segue into everything else, right?
Okay.
So the documentary, it's me. The star of the documentary will be Dr. Tamia Austin. All right. A few athletes, coaches, people who know me, people who saw me go through what I went through. Because a lot of people, when they're going through their issues, they typically do it in the comforts of their own living room, right? In their own spaces. Me, I did it on a platform. I have ESPN articles about it. I have other newspaper articles. I have videos, news room videos. I think it was like News 4 or something in Richmond, Virginia. But I was able to suffer in public. So, there's nothing that I can do or anyone else can do to erase the actual evidence that was put forward. And it starts out by Mrs. Tamia talking about Dr. Tamia talking about all the athletes and what they've suffered, some who have perished, like the Darling twin and other athletes who passed after their careers, like the one guy who played for Denver who had the spleen, what did he have, cancer in his spleen or cancer in his
Oh,
for the Broncos.
the running back. Oh,
Yeah, the running back.
Ronnie Daniels.
Yeah. So we talk about that. We talk about all the athletes. We pay tribute to everyone that we could think of. Eric Plencher from UCF, and get into my story and explain what I went through, how it was it was thought to be just an all mental issue. And even when I had sickle cell, even when they diagnosed me, they told me that it's supposed to be benign, but for some reason I was going through what I was going through. And it goes into a triumph story of me. The doctors telling me that I shouldn't play sports past 19. Now, fast forward to me playing professional sports in Spain, basketball, and then getting a try with the Jaguars. So that's 2 professional sports. And it's a whole documentary about not allowing people to limit you, or doctors or whoever to limit you, and to not being able to do what you can do. You can still live your life, but you got to know what you're dealing with. You got to know what you're working with. Sickle cell is something where you have to be at optimal health at all times. You cannot take this lightly, right? It's, you have a special blood condition. I don't want to say condition because I don't think it's that. It sounds like it's worse than what it is, because it's really, when you understand what's going on with the body, where sickle cell comes from, and you have to mimic the environment of where it comes from, and the elements, and just being at optimal health at all times, it shouldn't have an effect on day-to-day life, but it does when you don't understand, when you're dehydrated, when you're not rested, when you're not working incrementally into your exercises, when you're not taking the proper breaks. Well, then, you can put yourself in a perpetual state of stress. You're never recovering. You're never getting to that super compensation phase. And basically, I tell the story about that, how I was able to listen to my body, listen to nature, started sunbathing, eating a clean diet. I switched over to a plant-based vegan diet. I used to get IVs before games, an oxygen tank during the game. I used to get my minutes monitored. I would play 4 minutes. They would pull me out, put me back in to play in my last year. And the players are like, there's nothing wrong with you. I was like, well, kinda, but I fixed it, right? I understand what's going on with the body, right? Like, I'm not afraid of getting darker, so I can get vitamin D and nitric oxide blood flow to create vasodilation, right? I'm not creating vaso-occlusion, right? Because I'm not putting too many saturated fats in my body, and I'm not creating too many free radicals. I'm quenching all of those with antioxidants. So I was able to, go take another route, to say the least.
And so this is Men's Health Month, and health is wealth, as they say. And certainly men get a bad rap, but maybe it's valid, with regards to taking care of themselves for whatever their reasons it may be lacking. I've definitely dealt with fear, especially when trying to get men to give, donate blood. But you say you healed your sickle cell trait with your 7 natural doctors:
Yes.
air,
Yes.
diet, sleep, water, exercise, sunbathing, and stress management. So one by one, air, what's the natural doctor air?
Yeah, so the natural doctor air is clean the air, understanding humidity and how that plays an effect as well. Understanding like how to utilize plants around you so that can clean the air as well. Are you there?
I'm here.
Look like you froze, but yeah. Getting clean air, open air therapy. There's a lot of doctors in the early 1900s. They use open air therapy. They take their patients to the beach, put them in the water, dip them in the water, get the clean air, because the air is the beach is the only place where you can get all 4 elements at the same time: land, water, sun, and air, and clean air, right? So just being able to be in those environments, right?
Is that why I like the beach so much?
Yeah. Every single human loves the beach, right? Because it brings you back to nature, who you are. We're made from nature, so we got to be in nature. Our bodies aren't synthetic bodies. Our bodies are naturally made bodies in nature. So the closer we get back to it, the better. Just cleaning some of the air in your house, right? Letting some air in during the winter. Because to get rid of some of the I won't talk about that time during the 2020, but getting some of that influenza out of the
Yeah,
apartment, right?
yeah.
Moving the air, just free flowing air. And we have the other doctor, what water, clean water, how to get
Mm.
water from fruit. Fruit is water like coconut water. That's ready-made water. Coconuts are from the tropics. Watermelon is 96% water. That's from the tropics. Sickle cell comes from the tropics. So my whole school of thought is that the cure and the disease comes from the same environment. They
The
never come
cure
from
and
too
the
far away from each
disease.
other.
Okay.
Yeah, from the same environment, right? It's like poison, like if a poison leaf or poison plant. Typically, the antidote is like the root or some part of the same plant, right?
Hmm.
And that's how I tapered it back. So what type of air do I need to experience? How can I best mimic it, no matter where I'm at, depending on if I'm in New York or if I'm in Miami. Well, Miami is closest to the tropics in the U.S., um,
And
but for
that's
the
why you
water,
moved there, right?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I wouldn't live anywhere else with sickle cell. I wouldn't live anywhere else. Yeah, because this is a tropical thing. It's not like people go from having sickle cell and moving to New York and getting better, right? Cold air is a vasoconstrictor. So, why would I move away from a warm environment where there's free flowing air, right? Even though it's hotter, I live near the coast. The coast, that's moving air. It doesn't feel as hot as you think it is because the wind is blowing all the time. It's when you move inland, let's say like in the middle of Texas or something like that. Oh yeah, your body is not designed to be there. There's low humidity there, right? Like my hair is designed to grow up and catch humidity and block the sun from hitting the neck, block the sun from hitting the face and the neck and exposing the neck, so that free air can blow and cool me down. But if I'm in certain environments where my body isn't made to to warm itself up, it's made to cool itself off with the wide nostrils and the dark skin, right? It's going to be advantageous for me to live outside the tropics. That's
Mm.
just that's just my synopsis. That's just how I see it.
So that segues to the sunbathing. How,
Oh yes, yeah,
talk about
sunbathing.
the,
Me personally, I believe sunbathing is the number one important thing for anyone, not just dark skinned people, anybody, right? We're talking about nitric oxide. That's one of the number one ways of how I reverse sickle. Well, I wouldn't say reverse, but how I kind of healed my situation, right? Nitric oxide is basically the endothelial function, the inner lining of the cells, allowing themselves to relax and to dilate, and so more blood can flow, so that more oxygen, more nutrients, more hormones, everything can get through the body. Water can get through the body. When there's a blockage, when there's a constriction, it's hard for your body to do what it does. You can't. Your body is not going to allow itself to manifest in a positive manner, right? It'll be it'll be in a way where you're always having to need something, or you're lacking something. So for me, I had to first get over my fear of being as dark as possible, right? Because I grew up in the South. When you're dark skinned, people don't accept you that much. And I'm not talking about people outside of my group. It was my group, right? My
mhm,
group of
mhm.
people that's, oh, you got dark over the summer. Of course. Of course I got dark over the summer. I'm supposed to be dark. I'm not supposed to be light. I'm supposed to be at least a shade or two darker than my armpit color or the inner arm of my body, right? So the fear of uh, not going into the sun, the fear of going into the sun and allowing myself to get vitamin D and nitric oxide and boost mitochondrial function, I was able to have more energy, ATP production. I was more able to have more oxygen, free flowing oxygen, because we know that oxygen is it's everything's predicated on oxygen when it comes to sickle cell. You lack oxygen, you lack everything. All right. And that's why I blocked that fear. I got over my family and lineage of fear of getting dark. And I said, I went against the grain, and my body's great. I haven't had any issues lately. I played 1 year professional basketball, and every chance I got, 1 year professional basketball, doing my protocol, and every chance I got, I was in the sun. And that was the year that I was able to play full games, no oxygen tanks, no IVs before the game. It was as if nothing ever happened.
So
So
the
that's
first thing
sunbathing.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say that your questions are welcome. You can come off mute. You can put your question in the chat. So I have lots of questions, but this is your safe space. So please, anybody else that's interested, has questions, let's hear them or put them in the chat. But I do want you to address the sunbathing. The how. Do you just go and sit outside when the sun is the highest? Like, what is your method?
Yeah, so sunbathing, I'm actually releasing a course right now on Teachable. I'm going to put it on my website because for everyone it's different, right? Because it depends on where you're at, time of the year, your skin complexion. If you're taking medications that are photosensitive or photoallergenic or phototoxin, right? Because you're not supposed to be in the air in the sun if you're even taking penicillin, right? It'll burn you, right? Because the synthetics in the sun does not match. Like it'll tell you in the back of most bottles, do not go in the sun while you're on this. But how I do it right now, I'm in Miami. If you look at a chart, I forget, I think it's like the Fitzpatrick skin type chart. You ever heard of that?
I have.
Yeah, the Fitzpatrick skin type chart. I would be anywhere between a 5 and a 6. Right, there's 6 colors from one very light, 6 extremely dark, like the opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm somewhere in between the 5 and the 6, right? So in the summer in Miami, someone who's very fair skinned, they only need 10 minutes midday. I'm talking about first and second quarter of the day. If you break up the day in quarters, it's the first and second quarter. With right now, I think 1:15 p.m. is the peak sun when the sun is at its zenith, right? So I would be in the sun right now for at least 40 minutes, 40, 50 minutes. And someone who's fair skinned would be in the sun for 10 minutes for them to get enough vitamin D and also nitric oxide as well.
You
But
serious
before
about
I do
this, huh?
that, what happened?
I said, you're serious about this.
Oh, very, very serious. I've been doing this for a long time, right?
How long?
Before
How long? How long has it been?
Since 2018, early
Okay.
2018, I was convinced by one of my friends. I thought it was crazy. He was like, "Yeah, I feel like I don't need to eat. I feel like I'm powered by the sun." I was like, "What are you talking about?" I tried it and I was like, "Wow, I still eat, but but I feel much better, right?" So, but going back to what I was saying, prior to going out in the sun, you don't want to take a bath 2 hours before going into the sun. It has to be prior to 2 hours, and then after 2 hours after, right? Because you can rub off the vitamin D, right? Well, it's still synthesizing itself in the skin, right? But before I'm eating arugula. Arugula has nitrates. They deplete the nitrites. They store themselves in between the dermis and epidermis. So when UVA light hits it, it creates nitric oxide, right? The UV lights also create free radicals. So you definitely want to eat some type of berries and something that has antioxidants to fight those free radicals, so you don't age as quickly when the sun hits you. Or you want to eat something that has like a red color, like a watermelon, because it has properties that stops stops your skin from aging. Because typically fruit and herbs and stuff, if they come from that environment, they're going to protect you from the environment, the harsh elements of that environment, right? So you definitely want to consume more tropical things during the time of when the sun is at its highest, right? Healthy fats, because vitamin D is fat soluble. So you want to consume healthy fats as well: avocados, coconut, hemp seeds, cacao. You know, healthy fats in I say plant-based sources because I'm whole food plant-based. What else? Yeah,
Well,
if you're somebody who's new to sunbathing, and let's say you haven't sunbathed since last summer or something like that, I would start with the feet. You get the feet out there for 5 minutes. The next day, knees, from knees down 5 minutes, waist down 5 minutes. You incrementally work your way into it. You don't want to just jump out in the sun. Like, even though I'm a sunbather and I've been doing it for the last 6-7 years, I wouldn't not sunbathe in the winter and then go sunbathe in the summer without having sunbathe in between, because the sun prepares you for the harsher sun, right? So you got to do it throughout the whole year. So when people go on vacations, they come from England or somewhere from, or New York or whatnot, or Boston, and they go to Jamaica and they sunbathe. Good luck. You can't do that. Your body is not used to instantaneous change. It's used to incremental changes. And you know, you have to work your body into it. You don't want your face and your neck to be exposed to the sun, so you want to buy a hat or bucket hat, but the rest of your body can take it. Your extremities are meant for it. But that's why typically people who have ancestors from the tropics, they have an afro, and that actually creates a bucket-like effect or umbrella-like effect that blocks that head and the neck by itself, right? So yeah, I broke it down. I broke this thing down to a science.
Well, Claudette
Yeah.
has a question. So let's hear your question, Claudette. I mean, you kind of hit on the diet part, but after the question, we definitely want to talk about the sleep. So we got a question from
Yeah,
Claudette and then Chadira.
absolutely.
I have a comment and a question. So my comment is that I'm kind of going through the same thing, but it's very similar. But for me, it's aging. Everybody says, well, you're just getting older. And so this is, oh yeah, your foot swells because you're just getting older, that kind of thing. So people attribute it to what they know and don't know anything about sickle cell disease and trait. And years ago, I was talking to one of my coworkers from Ghana. My dad is also from Ghana. And we were just talking, and I was talking about my brain fog and lethargy and things like that. And he said, whenever he goes to Ghana, he doesn't feel like that. He feels fine when he's at home. But he feels the lethargy and the brain fog and stuff when he comes to the States. And which is crazy because now a lot of it's clicking from what you said. I thought, okay, maybe it's the food, because a lot of the food is cooked with, the base is a green. Many of the soups and everything, the base is always a green, and a tomato and an onion. But now hearing you, I'm like, it's more than that. It's more than just the food. It's also the environment and everything. So that was my comment. And I'm taking vicious notes because this is all amazing. And one thing, I missed the seventh doctor. I only have 6 doctors written down, and I was wondering what the 7th one was. Can you list them again?
Yes, absolutely. So we have water, air, food, diet, sunbathing, stress management, and sleep.
Did you say exercise?
And exercise. Yeah, and exercise. How did I forget exercise? That's what I do every day. 2 times a day, almost. And exercise.
Are you done? Was that the end for you, Claudette?
That was it. That was
Okay.
a comment, and my question was the exercise. I missed that.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
and I would like to comment on Claudette's comment. All right, Claudette, you're absolutely right. But because epigenetics is the belief that environment determines gene behavior, right? And when it comes to environment, there's so many inputs. We don't know. I can name 7 now because that's what I've attributed it to, but there's so many more than just 7, right? Those are just like the micro inputs that the macro inputs that I label, but there's so many micro within it. We just we can't account for all of them. Every day we're going to account for something new. It could be, the phone, right? Too many frequencies like Wi-Fi. It can be synthetic lights instead of LED lights instead of incandescent light bulbs, or like lanterns, like old school, right? There's so many different things that play a role. It could be food, right? Which most of the time it is, right? Eating a green is probably the utmost important thing. You're supposed to have like 5 servings of greens every day. Right? A lot of us don't get it. It could be the fiber, the added fiber. Fiber feeds your gut microbiome, and your gut microbiome feeds you, right? So there's a lot. Most people only get a day's worth of fiber within a week. So we're severely deficient in fiber. Most people say protein. No, it's fiber that we should be focused on. So no, you're absolutely right. And your dad, he's absolutely right. The environment does a different thing to you when you're in it. And it's one of those things where when you experience it, it's kind of hard to put a name on it, but you're like, hey, I feel good. I don't know what it is or what I ate or what I experienced, but I feel much better. I lived in Europe, and there's a lot of people who went to Europe and they come back and they're like, hey, they don't allow certain things in their food, like what we allow in here. Like it's much more strict. And when I come back here, I eat something and I blow up 5-10 pounds. But when I go there, I can eat anything I want to, and I probably lose weight. So it's a lot of environmental things, and we can go down the rabbit hole on that. But America is, you got to make money. America is where you come to make money. America is not where you come to be as healthy as possible, right? It's typically the country that makes the most money has the worst health. That's how it works, right? Because everything has to be convenient. It has to be convenient. If it's not convenient, the money can't be made, right? Like you can't inconvenience people to make money. That's why in Jamaica they don't know what organic is. Everything's organic, right? So, absolutely.
Chadira?
Your story really stuck with me because it's crazy. I ran track and I graduated in 2011, and then I think it was 2010 my coaches realized something was going on because I'd have those hard like cramps. I thought they were cramps, but they're like, these are worse than cramps. I don't know what's going on with you, because it'll last for like an hour, 2 hours, and I'm just there. And then I finally went to the doctor, and then they're like, yeah, I think it's sickle cell trait, which was impressive that my primary care doctor, pediatrician, knew what that was. But she didn't know how to help me. She started giving me oxygen. They all told me to quit track. And I was like, that's my only way out. I needed a full ride in track. But she also told me I couldn't go to college down south, which is crazy. So I went to Minnesota, and I had probably 11 rhamnoiosis. I had 11. So Mayo knew what was going on. My kidneys got damaged so bad that I lost my scholarship. They still had me running. My heart rate was at like 200. He wouldn't give me time to rest. Like I needed oxygen, and he wanted 30-second rest in between 12 sets of 200s. That was ridiculous. So after a while, my dad just pulled me out of school. And then I went to Indiana State. My life was 10 times better. But my question to you, yeah, because when you said environment, it clicked in my head. I thought the cold, like air that I was breathing was making things worse. But they put me on ADHD medication, and that's when things got worse. And then fluoxetine. So now I'm back on fluoxetine, and I'm having the same issues and Vyvanse. And I don't know, like everybody's telling me I'm crazy. And the neurosurgeon, I had brain surgery. I didn't even need the brain surgery. The neurosurgeon that I went to get the second opinion, he was like, no, I don't think this has anything to do with Chiari malformation. I think this is your sickle cell issues. And it didn't click in my head because it's usually like exercise induced for me. Now I'm just like, that's why I'm here. Trying to listen to learn as much as I can.
And I'm gonna just say, I am not a clinician, neither is Lance, but yeah. I fully embrace all of you telling your stories, all of you asking your questions, and go back to your doctors and ask them too. But we're here to share. This is a safe space. And I'm shaking my head.
But it's been disappointing because nobody knows enough. And then the primary I have right now, she just didn't know enough. And it's my joints, my finger burns when I drink Starbucks lemonade. Has that ever happened to you guys? Like, it felt like frostbites, and maybe I was super dehydrated. Who knows? But I didn't realize, it had to do with my sickle cell, because I thought that was like in my past. I thought that only happened when I was an athlete.
May I ask if you know your genotype?
See, I just got that blood test done where it says I have 38% sickled cells. I don't know much about anything. I'm completely not educated.
38%. Okay. 38%.
And then the A2, like 3%. A2. So I'm
Do you
learning.
know if you have trait of S or like have they said AS or AC?
Um, I'm so sorry. I don't
No,
know.
no. Don't apologize. Don't apologize. Since you have that test, you can find out what your genotype is. S, C, E, Monroe, Punjab. There's over 200, but there's probably about 11 common ones. But that 38% is in the research that when people or carriers have that 30 to 40%, that is an indicator of the likelihood of symptoms. And
Interesting.
the hemoglobin electrophoresis can tell you your percentage, it can tell you your genotype. And I won't get into whether S can be more severe than C, but there's been a lot more research and reporting about the symptomology of C, even sickle C disease, which had at one point, oh, that's a milder form. Well, a lot of C disease warriors are really expressing crises and pain and so on. So I'll hush and let you and Lance get back to it. But with your question, go right ahead.
I guess I want to learn more about like how does the ADHD, I just read about it on like the sickle cell trait journal, but like ADHD medication makes you more dehydrated. So I didn't know that, I'll just drink the same amount of water I drink every day. And I thought I was drinking a lot. And then the fluoxetine, it's like an antidepressant, anti-anxiety. I just want to learn more about that. I think I need to just get off of everything and just go natural. So
Lance, put your Instagram and everything in the chat because he is, sharing his story. Really, please follow Captain Planted, Captain with a K, Planted, not Planet, Planted.
I followed already.
Okay, awesome. And Captain Planted, hint hint, is his for-profit. But you tell us your story and share your response, Lance.
Yeah. So I believe, there's a common theme, and not just with people with sickle cell, but with people with anything that most doctors or Western medicine can't really get a finger on. They typically say it's in your brain, right? I was told that it was a figment of my imagination. And like you said, you ran track and you know how it felt. You know when you felt strong. You know when you didn't feel strong, right? You knew you needed 15 more seconds of break. You know you needed 30 seconds of break for you to run your fastest, right? But they like to make you conform to everybody else, right? They don't want to give you favoritism. Basically, that's what they call it, right? It's not a favoritism. If you want what's best out of me, I think my body needs to be a little different. But they like to call you soft, and they like to call you these names. And you're an athlete, you got to push through it. And you say you graduated 2011, right? That was your graduating year.
Yes, for high school, and then college was 2016. I ended up transferring and things went better. Like you said, I had 5-minute rest versus 2 minutes to 30 seconds. So I'm like, yeah.
And that can make a world of difference, right? When a coach is understanding and they're not stuck on their old school ways, and they're like, this person's talented, let me give her a few minutes. Let me give him a few minutes, right? If I can get the best out of him, okay, cool. But to hear you go down the same path that I went through, what I was trying to do this whole time is stop that from happening. I would love for Dr. Tamia and I to get in front of more people, so we and you and everyone who has suffered through it to get in front of more people and explain what it is, because you have people like I had a coach my last year playing in Spain. He made us practice 15 days straight. I need at least 1 or 2 days off in between that 15, all right? And he just wouldn't give me a day off. And I'm telling my agent, hey, listen, I have sickle cell. I was one of your players 5 years ago when I was in Spain. Something's wrong with this coach. He's not I'm explaining to him, hey, I have sickle cell. Look, here you go. Here goes everything. I just need a day off to recover. And in this world of money, when your coach his job's on the line. I don't think he care much about you, right? Because he's trying to protect his own self and provide for his family. So now there's a conflict of interest. Do I listen to this person and give them the time they need to recover, or do I save my butt and make myself look good, or do I look good in front of these other people so they respect me, because if I give her a break, then I got to give everyone else a break, right? But no, I share the same sentiment that you have, right? They forced me to go down that same path, and fortunate for me, I said, forget trying to make it to the NBA. I'm done. I'm getting off of everything. See you guys later. What I would say is, go as natural as possible. I'll try to put out more content, because a lot of this stuff, it's like Dr. Tamia say, what's good for sickle cell is good for everything, right? What makes you optimally healthy is good for everything. And I think that there's just elements of health that we just have not ventured off into yet, right? We like to put a Band-Aid on it. Take this pill, go away, right? But let's say hypothetically you do have ADHD. Let's say you do have anxiety. Is it a gut issue? Right? Right? Is it a hydration issue? Right? Is it a lack of vitamin D or sunbathing? Because if you're not exposed to the sun, about 200 of your genes are inactive. So you're hormonally deficient, because vitamin D is a hormone. It's not a vitamin. It controls genes. So what is it? What are we really dealing with before we go to the medicine? I'm not completely against medicine. Like, if a person doesn't want to do all the things it takes to make themselves healthy, go into medicine, right? If they're not willing to put in that work, do it. But before you do it, please check off these things first, right? And I don't think that people know to check these things off. I don't think that physicians know to
No,
check these things
I
off.
just learned that my vitamin D was like really, really low. And then my iron was extremely low. So I forgot the iron does that to you. Caffeine causes me to go into that sickle cell crisis. Iron, not enough sleep, like you said. So I learned, because I kept getting into that RAMO, like muscle breakdown. But my CO2 levels, I don't know how to fix that. They're low. I don't know. Do I put oxygen in my nose? Sun? Is that more sun? That was my last question, and that'll be
it depends. It depends on where you're at, right? Because I know there's a guy. His name's Robbie Robinson. He was a famous bodybuilder. He was coming up in the ranks with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he actually uses oxygen, like oxygen, like canister, right? He just put it like NFL players use on the bench. They put it to their mouth and breathe in it. They hand that out. I was playing in China for a little bit, and we went to about 10,000 feet high, right? That's a no-no for people with sickle cell. You go too high, that thin air, that's a bad thing. But as soon as I stepped off the plane, they handed us these cans of oxygen. Man, I had like 30 cans. I was breathing oxygen the whole time, right? Because I got sickle cell, and I know if I'm deprived of oxygen, good luck, right? That's when the trouble starts. That's just the beginning, right? But I didn't play. But I will every time I felt winded from walking. Yeah, I had that can with me, right? So you may have to do that for the time being. You may have to buy a UVB lamp for vitamin D. They sell those, right? Lamps. And I get this stuff from people like Niels Finson. He has a Nobel Prize for curing people with lupus, with vitamin D, with heliotherapy, sun therapy, right? And I follow some of his work, and he thought that every institution would have a vitamin D room at some point with lamps, so that people, let's say if you work in a hospital, you can just go in there for 30 minutes and get enough vitamin D, because you can't go outside if you live in places like London or New York during the winter, and there's 4 months of right? If you're living above that 35th parallel, right? The 35th parallel is like,
Yep.
it splits the U.S. right down the middle, right? You can almost fold it on itself, right? It's eerie how you can really fold the U.S. and it kind of looks like itself. But near the Macy-Dixon line, the Macy-Dixon line is the 37th parallel, right? So they're right on top of each other. But if you're living north of that, you gotta load up on a bunch of things that, because you got to prepare for the summer. And during the winter, in half of fall, you got to during the summer in half of fall, you got to make sure you're sunbathing before you get to that point, because you don't want to be deficient going into the summer because vitamin D stays in your system for 2 months, right? Then after 2 months, then it weans off and then it goes away. Then now you're suffering. So you want to at least last 2 weeks into the winter, right? Until spring. But yeah, there's a lot. I wish I had forever to talk, but it's we still haven't touched on exercise and what that does. But then
And
also you
sleep.
talked about
And
sleep, right?
yeah.
And I think sleep should be the next. She talked about drinking caffeine, right? So when your cortisol levels are high, it's hard for you to go to sleep. Caffeine raises cortisol, so you should be thinking about whenever you're drinking caffeine, do it before 12 o'clock. Right. I know some people, if they drink caffeine after 12 o'clock, it's hard for them to go to sleep. Their brain's going crazy, right? Or even exercise. If you exercise too close to sleep, your cortisol levels are high and it's hard for you to go to sleep, right? So, all of these things could be playing a factor. And, how are your physicians going to make money off of telling you this stuff? It's almost a conflict of interest, right? It's like, and I'm not trying to, demonize anyone because I'm not here to do that. I'm just here to work along with everything that we have and just infuse something else so that, things can work hand in hand, right? I'm trying to do my best to address chronic issues before they become acute issues. And, but sleep is important, right? You got to fix your sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene is, if you can sun gaze in the morning to create serotonin, because serotonin is a precursor to melatonin. So you expose your eye to the sun to allow you to go to sleep. If you are having blue light on all the time on your phone, you can easily turn that off. There's a setting there. You could wear blue light blockers like what Dr. Tamia has on. I can see the blue light blockers in her glasses. You can cover your screen with a blue light blocker. You can switch out the lights to allow you to go to sleep. You can make the room pitch dark. You can wear earplugs so you can stop the sound or put on some white noise to go to sleep. There's a couple different things, and sleep repairs you. That's the recovery. That's the king of recovery, right? They call that the most important antioxidant ever, right? But yeah, we can't overlook that, and we got to do our best to get optimal sleep when we have it, to go through all those 4 stages.
How much do you sleep daily?
I do my best to get 7 to 8 hours. All right. I just ordered a book that talks about it. It goes deeper into detail. And I know enough about it, but I like to learn from people who know their stuff. I like to learn from, like, when you talk, I shut up, right? Because I didn't know there was that many types of things similar to sickle cell. Yeah, like you were telling me the other day, you have alpha thalassemia. Never heard of alpha thalassemia. I heard of beta thalassemia. Never heard of alpha thalassemia. And that's what most people don't even know about yourself, right? And then you told me that. And you told me
I
that.
have alpha thalassemia trait. After all these years, I had no idea, but I decided to take my own medicine and go get tested. And I got tested. I was at my doctor's office. She was ordering blood work, and it's not in the routine blood work, which is why you just ask. And she's like, why? I said, well, I'm a sickle cell educator. I'm telling people to go get tested, and I've not been tested. So, and she was literally screaming in the phone, Dr. Austin, you're on to something because you're positive for alpha thalassemia trait. Now we got to get your husband in here. And, I'm like, okay, pump your brakes. I'm 50, almost 3. So we're not trying to, but we're still going to get him tested because the idea is to know. The idea is to know. So alpha thalassemia is a genotype. It's not a sickle hemoglobinopathy, but it is a hemoglobinopathy. So Claudette, you got another question, and I'll go ahead and queue up Lance so we can at least play the promo before we have to end up in about 9 minutes.
Yeah, I'll put it here in the background.
Go ahead, Claudette.
I had a question about exercise. I started increasing the weights that I was lifting at the gym, and I had to stop at a certain point. I just couldn't get past a certain point of weights, and I I guess, I'm okay with, just sticking with that, the weights that I'm lifting at the pounds that I'm lifting. But is there, how can you kind of, I think it might be muscle breakdown that I'm suffering from. I don't know. But how can you like kind of prevent that from happening?
Yeah, so that's a question that that's like something that I would have to be there with you. Now, I used to be a personal trainer myself, so um, it, it can be a few things, right? It can be a lack of sleep because there's this thing called overtraining, right? Where if you don't get enough sleep or nutrition, you can slip into overtraining. Not necessarily meaning you train too many hours or too many minutes, because that can be the case. But those three things have to be in perfect harmony: sleep, exercise, and diet, or nutrition, right? Those, they have to be in harmony. And if they're not in harmony, then you can slip into overtraining, and that could force you to get injuries, could throw your hormones off, um, and a bunch of different things. It can be a cascade of events, right? So I don't know if the weight is too much. I don't know if the weight's too little. Um, I do know that when you lift heavy, it doesn't necessarily break your muscles down to that degree. Typically, your muscles break down with time under tension. So the longer you're doing a specific exercise, and the more you have your muscle in elongated position, like in extended position, that's when the muscles start to rip themselves up, so you can rebuild them. People with sickle cell, you got to be very careful with that, because you have to repair. Like, you may have to have space to time out in between gym. You may have to do a cardio day where you're doing a light walk on an incline, mix it with weights the next day, or space it 2 or 3 days in between. But like I say, nobody knows the body better than the human that's running it, right? Like, you've been with your body longer than anybody. No one's been with your body longer than you've been with your body, right? Like, and I'm not someone to tell you how your body operates. I'm not someone to tell you that you're not experiencing something that you could be experiencing. That'll be me doing the same thing that everybody did to me my whole life, right? But there are some ways that you could test yourself, and you could go down this path and say, hey, is it this? And you create a checklist and say, no, it's not that. Yes, it's that, right? You can take certain herbs like valerian root, ashwagandha, blue vervain, to allow for you to drop that cortisol. These herbs are typically high. They're good for dropping that cortisol, so that you can get into a state of relaxation, so that you can go to sleep and you can repair, right? Because it's the repair thing for us, people with sickle cell trait, that stops us from being our optimal self, because it's hard for us to repair. That's where we're at a disadvantage in the repair state.
Hit play, because I want people to see.
The documentary.
Yeah, share your screen. And please, if you have questions, put them in the chat, and we're gonna get your questions answered for you too.
Okay. Just a second here. All right, can you see it?
It's starting. Lance Kearse
Okay.
has started screen sharing. Okay. Can you there you go.
Ready?
Yep.
Size, agility, his speed, and he had effort, and that's not soft. So we, in our minds, he's like, what the hell? Why is he not being able to get through this practice? Like, what's going on? We really didn't understand what was going on. We find out that he was dealing with I remember when I heard that news, I was really devastated. I was like, damn, like that's what he was going through.
He was at Virginia Commonwealth. He had called me up and shared with me, some issues that he was having. I spoke to one of the assistant coaches, and
he told me that, Lance was being a pussy and that he wasn't playing hard. None of this sounded like the Lance Kearse that I knew.
The chronic fatigue is a huge one, just being tired for no reason. We see this a lot because our organization focuses on athletes in particular when they are being accused of being lazy, not going hard. When the fact of the matter is they have the most common genetic disorder. It happened by selection as protection from malaria.
So I think it was his second year, sophomore year at VCU. I get a call from Coach Toppin saying, "Hey, Lance Kearse might be leaving VCU. Would you be interested?" Of course, I said, "Yeah, we'd definitely be interested."
So I knew about some of the medications he was taking when he was at his previous school, some of the hospital visits, some of the psychologists or psychiatrists they was recommending him. In his mind, he knows why they have him on these antidepressants, but he knows it's not solving the problem. We tried to ensure they had enough rest. We learned about giving him additional oxygen, so we had oxygen tanks that that we can provide for him. And then we learned about IVs, so we can rest oxygen and take IVs. We did some time management for him in practice. Time management for him, even in the games, we utilized our media timeouts to the best of our ability. That's where he was All-American, Player of the Year.
I remember how much he was trying to take care of what he's eating, what he's drinking, his recovery. Find someone with his passion and his really the goal on his mind and work for this goal. I think that's a good example for all these people that they are fighting for their dreams, and he was really fighting and working for his dream that was to be a professional athlete.
What I feel like we could have helped him with his conditioning, and one of those things was sunbathing. So I know what it did for me, and I just kind of just told Lance, and he really took it and ran with it, and kind of compounded what I even told him, and kind of find out it was one of the saving graces.
Nah, I mean he had it under control. I mean he practiced daily, played in games, like most of the games, coach would take him out, he pissed off. Felt like he needed more minutes. I remember him tearing rooms down. I always tell a lot of players, Lance is the strongest guy I ever played with. My boy Lance was breaking machines. He literally broke a machine in the gym the day before the game. It was rare to see.
Lance was born into a family of sports, so he's been around it all his life. At an early age, I noticed that Lance was very competitive. He did not like to lose in anything, no matter what it was. When the parking lot just hanging out talking, and we witness a guy getting murdered, and 15 feet away from us, guy walks up to him, put a gun to his head, shoot him, guy falls in the pit. Lance and I are right there watching it. It's important to know, someone's background to know who they are.
I've actually met Lance. Lance had to be probably 8 or 9, somewhere around there. Lance came to me uncoordinated, very skinny, no strength. I mean, had no explosiveness. Didn't like an athlete. I would say probably the most versatile athlete that I've trained. I didn't see nobody go from basketball to not playing football and getting a trial with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Let's be honest, Lance, if he loved football the way he loved basketball, we're not making this documentary. This is about football. I'm not even involved.
So there was a question in the chat. Would you mind sharing the link directly in the chat?
Absolutely.
Because the audio cut out a little bit, but that's what's coming, y'all. And I'm so excited for you, Lance.
Thank you.
We are over our time, but I definitely want to just leave space if anybody has any additional questions or comments. Lance's social media is also in the chat. And again, this is Men's Health Month. We are just past Father's Day, World Sickle Cell Day, and Juneteenth is tomorrow. So one thing that I just feel led to remind us is in the sickle cell disease space, it is often said that each patient is like a butterfly. Everyone presents differently. And I honestly believe that that is the same for trade. And especially when not enough of research is happening, not enough labs are dedicated. Aaron Washington has a question. Go right ahead and unmute. And if you have to leave, we absolutely understand. Go ahead, Aaron. Aaron, can you unmute? I see you, but I don't hear you. Do you want to just copy it in the chat or type it into the chat? Okay. So Aaron says, and now I can't see the chat.
Yeah, it says, I heard you say sleep is the best thing. I've been having a hard time trying to reset my body clock. As far as we know how hard it is to sleep in the hospital. This is a long process of getting, hold up. Someone's putting something. Okay. Guess my body just stated to jump hole every morning, no matter what. Go to bed, I always wake up at 2 o'clock. Around. So he talks about how he's going to sleep and he keeps waking up at 2 o'clock.
And Aaron, she has sickle cell disease or trait? I believe Aaron is a sickle cell disease warrior. Genesis, our co-founder, has put the Genesis, her IG, and as well as the As One Foundation. So please, if you don't mind following us all, and thank you so much for your comments. This is being recorded. The link to the actual promo to the documentary is in the chat. Lance, did you have something else?
No, not at all. But was Genesis here on Saturday in Miami?
No, she was not in Miami.
I was not.
Because I think.
No, I was not.
Okay, yeah. They had an As One Foundation event here or something. They had a few people talking on it. I couldn't go to it. It was on Saturday. I was working at the market, but yeah, I saw something there for the As One Foundation.
In Miami?
Miami.
Oh.
I can send it to you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Lance, for sharing your story. I really appreciate hearing everything. Truly.
Well, thank you, Genesis, for opening us up to this conversation. And last words to our guest.
I want to say thank you guys for joining. Like we were saying, this is Men's Mental Awareness Month, and like I want to say thanks, Lance, for sharing your amazing testimony, and I continue to wish you the best in your journey, because it's truly amazing how far you've come, and I'm looking forward to this documentary that will be coming out fairly soon. Thank you, everybody, and we will be back with Trait Space next month.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you all.